Good morning. We are happy to have you in this EASIT multiplier event. I am Sergio Hernandez Garrido from the University of Hildesheim, and together with Professor Cristiane Maas, we are in charge of the second unit of IO5. Unit 2 covers the field of easy to understand language, or short, ETU. From now on, in this presentation, I will refer to easy to understand language with this acronym. In this short video presentation, I will talk about the aspects of ETU that we are covering in Unit 2. Then, I will briefly go into the teaching materials that we are creating for this unit. Overall, IO5 Unit 2 covers the field of easy to understand language. When we talk about easy to understand language, we mean all language varieties for comprehensibility enhancement. In the EASIT project, we focus on two of these language varieties, easy to read and plain language. When creating the teaching materials for this unit, we are focusing on current research in the field. We're also considering the way language varieties for comprehensibility enhancement are being implemented at the moment. In research and practice, easy to read and plain language still set their major focus on written communication and not audiovisual formats. For this reason, we scratched the surface of the possibilities of implementing ETU in audiovisual formats. This is key for the EASIT project. In other units in IO5, the aspect of ETU in subtitling, audio description, and audiovisual news are covered in more detail. IO5 Unit 2 has overall 5 elements. Each of these elements covers different aspects of ETU. The first element of this unit is understanding ETU. Here we try to start with an introduction into the field of easy to understand language. In the next elements, we go more into detail. The second element would be legislation, standards, and guidelines. Then we talk about processes. The fourth element is the language of ETU. And finally, we have the element visual presentation. Let's look into each one of these 5 elements. Element 1, understanding ETU, starts with an overview of easy to understand language, focusing on easy to read or short ETUR and plain language or short PL. This element also covers the topic of the target audiences, their communicative needs, and how ETU can be a tool to overcome communicative barriers for the target groups. We also talk here about modalities and the different forms of media realizations, and then we go into basic rules of easy to understand language. Here, I must say that in Unit 2, we focus on rules for linguistic comprehensibility enhancement that are not language bound. The second element covers the aspect of legislation, standards, and guidelines. First of all, we go into legislation, standards, and guidelines with an international perspective. We cover information on these aspects that generally apply for all countries. In detail, the situation of easy to understand language concerning legislation, standards, and guidelines is different in every country. For that reason, all partners are working together in this unit to create material on the situation in Spain, Catalonia, Slovenia, Sweden, Italy, and Germany. These are the countries represented in the EASIT consortium. Element 3 goes into the processes of ETU. Here, we differentiate between creating content in ETU and adapting or translating content into ETU. We also go into the topic of validation processes of content in easy to understand language. The fourth element covers the linguistic aspects of ETU. We talk about textual, syntactic, lexical, and pragmatic aspects of easy to understand language, focusing on easy to read and plain language. We also cover the discourse of ETU. Here we look into intertextuality, previous knowledge of the target groups, and text types. The last element, the fifth element, covers the visual aspects of ETU. We go into format aspects and the use of images when creating content in easy to read and plain language. To cover these aspects of ETU, we are primarily creating video lectures. These lectures are generally not longer than 5 minutes. The lectures also contain several examples of projects and implementations of E2U. We are also planning to offer other videos with samples of images and formats, for example. These other videos would serve to show with more detail what is currently being made in the field of easy-to-understand language. This video presentation has been prepared by Sergio Hernández Garrido from the University of Hildesheim. You can reach me at hernande@unihildesheim.de.